This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us live at the studio Mark Vickery of Cosmic Bowl. And Cosmic Bowl will be playing at our WZRD Chicago 50th anniversary birthday party on Saturday, May 4th, 2024. The show starts, the show's all the different bands will start playing beginning at 7:30, and it will be at the Martyrs at 3859 North Lincoln Avenue. Welcome, Mark.
Oh, thank you. Nice to be here.
Great to have you. First of all, tell us how Cosmic Bowl came together.
Cosmic Bull was a concept before it was a band. And by a concept, I mean it was just an idea. It came was the name came first. And I said, well, anything I do creatively, musically, is going to have that as the name of it, Cosmic Bull. Eventually, the band came around when, after I had done a couple of recordings in the studio and had different producers kind of work their magic around what I was doing. I decided I would start a band that could somehow encapsulate some of that and kind of grab some of that magic that was happening just in the studio. So I reached out to Jim Deneau, who is a fantastic keyboard player. It's fantastic, doesn't even quite do it justice with this guy. He's wild. He comes out with the most, I don't know, interesting stuff. So I knew he would be able to fill in a lot of space. And once he was established and it was working out great between the two of us, then he reached out to a bass player that he knew from playing in a Talking Heads tribute band that Charlie Otto used to front and founded, called This Must Be the Band. And then from there, we brought in Ben, the drummer, who was also from that group. So we have a Talking Heads tribute band as my backup group, I guess is what you might say. Although it's much more interesting than even that would be.
And then, so you came up with the name Cosmic Bowl.
Right, that's right.
And but why Cosmic Bowl? Why not Cosmic something else, or why not something else Bowl?
It made sense as soon as it hit. I don't know. That was what it just kind of. I just discovered it, and I usually work backwards and try to figure out what something means. So that was the bull in the sky, which I think it also has a mythological component to it, not just zodiac sign wise, but I guess is this pre-Islamic bull with 100 heads or something, a very intimidating figure. No, this was about getting on the bull creatively, right? And you don't know what's going to happen. You can get thrown off. If you get thrown off, you got to get back up on that bull. I need to be a creative person. That's what it was all about. If I stop doing creative things in my life, things kind of, I don't know, they veer toward the unhappy, let's say. So I need to have a creative outlet, and that became what Cosmic Bowl was. It also sounded like a really cool band name, so I figured if I started a music project, I would call it Cosmic Bowl. Yeah.
You have a very wide range. Did you have voice lessons? How did you hone your voice?
No, I wouldn't say I even honed it. I've always had a deep register generally. I think when I write, it just goes wherever I want it to. So if I'm going to write in a certain range, I better be able to hit it. It's for the most part I could do it, I guess, but I don't have any formal training. Maybe I should. It might be kind of good, but I don't want to turn into like an opera singer. I don't want to always singing properly.
Well, do you feel any strain when it seems as if it's so natural for you when you sing? Do you feel any strain on your voice? Sometimes when formal training, they try to get the strain off your vocal cords.
Yeah, I mean, I bet you if I had some training, I would be able to kind of lessen that. There's points when I notice it or here and there where but I think that's also kind of rock and roll in a way. It's not all supposed to be just easy, it's supposed to be some like push and pull. Blues singers, they'll kind of roar, they kind of like reach to get that note, they stand on their tiptoes to kind of grab that thing. So it's the same idea.
Mhm. And you are a songwriter, so how did you start writing songs?
Ooh, I've written songs since I was a little kid, I think.
Mm.
Before I knew any instruments or anything. I just would hum a song, put a name to it, and then it would have a theme, you know. I don't know, just always. I've listened to the radio since I was very young too.
Mm.
So it was always something that attracted to me. It was attractive to me. Just listening to Elton John or Stevie Wonder or the Doobie Brothers or whatever and said, I want to do that. I want to make those kinds of things when I'm older.
Mhm. So at first you imitated, but then how did you start finding your own voice toward the imitations?
Yeah, actually, to be honest with you, I never imitated at all.
Oh,
I mean, I've never tried to sing like Stevie Wonder. It'd probably be
uh,
a mistake to even give it a shot. But no, I said, well, I can do that.
mm,
I was just that kid. So if I read a novel in sixth grade, I was like, I can write a novel now because I read one.
uh-huh.
Now I know how it's done.
Well, at least you had that drive, and then you actually brought that drive to fruition with your music.
Yeah, thank you. That's the intent, right?
Mhm, mhm. And so, how old were you when you actually started playing, and was your family encouraging?
It started playing with other people like junior high school. I
Mm.
started a band with a guy who was on my football team with me, who's gone on to become a professional drummer out in LA.
Oh.
He plays with a band called Face to Face. Hey, Danny. Um, and but was my family encouraging? I wouldn't say they were necessarily encouraging. They didn't see that I had talent. They didn't know what it was I was trying to do. They weren't into rock and roll. They weren't into the blues. So it was kind of beyond them.
Mm.
But it didn't, I mean, that's fine.
Mhm. But if you were listening to the radio when you were young, but then was the rest of the family listening?
They were listening to like Wally Phillips and WGN.
Mm.
He would play a song every once in a while. You're not going to get these references, but it's fine. AM radio had a lot of talk. I mean, it still does, I suppose, but
Mm.
it was just a different kind of a thing. I had kind of switched to FM when it became hip to do so, late 70s, I think, when disco chased everybody away from the AM dial. I was just always into the music. Even today, I can't listen to like talk radio in the car. I've got to have tunes on. I've got to have something that kind of moves me, you know. And if I don't have that, um, I don't. I feel like somebody talking to me, and I can't. I'm like a captive audience, like in the automobile. I don't. I feel like I can get away. I feel like that's kind of a maddening thing. Even if they're telling me things I want to know, I'd rather be proactive in finding that out myself, reading something or looking it up or watching TV or something.
Mm.
But if I'm listening to the radio, it's music all the way.
Mhm. So you were also always musically bent. So your family was not musically bent?
No.
Oh, wow. Congratulations that yeah, you kept your dream alive.
Broke the mold. It's very American, isn't it? It's like I didn't have any kind of predestined anything. No, I just wanted to do it.
Who are some of your influences? You mentioned Elton John and Stevie Wonder. Any other
Yeah, those are from
influences?
when I was a little kid. And then when I started writing songs, it's a really good question. When I started writing songs, I really learned from like the old rock and roll stuff, and then that kind of got revived in the whole punk new wave thing a little bit. Was just like three chords and the truth,
Mhm.
they used to say. Uh, and so it was easy. So you could see you could do it. There was a real easy road to it. And like I was saying, the blues musicians, we used to cut school and take the train down to Blues Fest back in the day, and we see like Willie Dixon on the stage, and like that's and then we know that like the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin listen to those guys, and here they are right in front of us in our hometown. We knew that there was like a very direct line to
Mhm.
this musical outlet, and so between learning how to that you can write songs with just with three chords or two chords. I've got two chord songs. um uh it was very freeing. Like since then, I've learned how to put minor chords in the right key or whatever, right place. Uh, but I don't know. I'm not. Did I answer your question? I'm not sure that I did.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
What about your musical training? Did you go to school for training or did you learn on your own?
Yeah, I took guitar lessons from well, it was first in my neighborhood when I was growing up, when I was really young, and then Perry's Music, if it's still there on St. Charles Road in Villa Park, was where I took lessons with Jack Hammond.
Mm.
And the guitar player who was in the band with me at the time took lessons right before me.
Oh,
So we would kind of compare notes, and then we started the band together.
oh,
And that guy designs guitars now, Bill Harnden, in Northwest Indiana. So, people have stuck with it. People that were interested in it to the level that I was, and I am still, have stuck with it quite nicely. They're kind of not veered off and done other things. The music, it was their thing too.
mhm. Was there any temptation for you to veer off? And if so, how did you stay on course?
Yeah, I didn't. For 20 years, I didn't stay on course. I actually stopped. Well, I didn't stop doing music. I stopped trying to present music to people. I stopped trying to make it a thing where I was still just jamming, doing whatever I wanted to do. There was no pressure. I didn't have to finish any songs if I didn't feel like finishing anything. Um, but it was just something I wanted to do. It's just whatever I wanted. So that's, you kind of sensing a pattern here. I do what I feel like doing mostly. Um, anyway, so that's what that was. It was just so it wasn't until I felt the pull back to kind of presenting stuff, because when I was listening to the radio, for instance, I wasn't hearing the songs that I thought I should be hearing. They weren't talking about the issues I thought they should be talking about. And it's like, well, where is that? I was like, well, I know where it is in here, right? So I mean, so I just said, well, now's the time. I've got to come back out and do it. Didn't really know how. I probably lost a lot of contacts along the way. Certainly wasn't at the top of anybody's, Rolodex. Shows you how long ago it was. It was Rolodexes. So anyway, I had to start over again, and you go through all the indignancies of trying to reestablish yourself in the club scene and all that, and it's not, that stuff's not fun, but getting back out there it's been good.
So talking about the club scene, did you find that unfair? Selling tickets to, or did you get paid out front? Like, how was that process for you? Like playing the club?
So back in the 90s, I was playing in a couple bands,
Mhm.
and one of the bands we were playing in was quite successful. We didn't have to do anything. We had a bunch of gigs booked for good money, and then we had a weekly residency at the Elbow Room on Lincoln Avenue. And so every Sunday, we took over for Liquid Soul, who used to play there every Sunday. And then the band I was in, which was first Zoe and then Sumo, took over. And then then we played every Sunday for, I think I was in that band for 5 years, just making stuff up. Right? Because there wasn't any material with that group. It was a collective of about anywhere from like 8 to 10 musicians, and a good crowd ready to have fun and dance. And we would just kind of get a good beat going, and somebody would decide what key we're playing in, and the horn guys would go, and the vocalist, it was me, and there's a female vocalist, and uh, Aster Kelly, who's in San Diego. I'm calling people out now, so I'm just gonna be
Well, they're all listening.
yeah, well, I figured they have a chance to tune in, so why not, um yeah, so it was anyway. So that was I did very well. I didn't have to get a gig. I had to first solicit getting shows back when you used to have a cassette. You'd record your
The
band.
demo tape?
It was demo tape,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't know how long it's been since that's even been a thing, but that was over 30 years ago. And so then we had kind of established ourselves. We kind of play the same shows and play the same venues, and everything was cool that way. But then eventually it was like, I'm I thought at the time I was getting too old to do it. And now I'm like, well, if I don't do it now, 20 years later, but really, I mean, this is it. I can't decide in 20 years after this that I'm going to decide to start playing music, so here we go.
And when you were listening to the music and you said that you were not finding what you wanted, and now it's your turn to put your voice into it. So describe a little bit about what happened and what did you jump into?
Things that were happening in the world.
Mhm. Such
When
as
such as when Greta Thunberg addressed the UN
Mhm.
and said, shame on you for not doing anything about the environment. All these people who have the ability to make changes, to enact changes on behalf of their first world countries, and they decided not to because profits were more important. I decided to take that ball and figure out what it meant to me. So I wrote a song called Unkindness of Ravens, which, sometimes when I write a song, I don't know exactly where it's going to go. I know what I want to write about,
Mhm.
and I know it's going to move somewhere, but I don't often know what the final destination lyrically is going to be.
Mhm.
It turned out it wasn't so positive, but I think it's a very nice song, and I think it was the first one that I had recorded, I think, that started getting people's attention
Mhm. Mhm.
in this new iteration of Mark Vickery and Cosmic Bull.
Yes.
Mhm. And then what else? That
What other subject material?
Yes.
Is it all political or?
I mean, I don't even know if that's political. One is about just kind of getting in arguments on Facebook and then being frustrated about it, I've been married a long time too. I've been married for over 20 years. So I don't really have the, oh baby, do you love me type of tunes. And I think if I did, I'd have to, answer for that when I got home. But it's also, I don't really feel it's not genuinely what I want to write about anyway. I don't know that it ever really was. It was always going to be about something that was kind of more the world. I'm going to interpret the world. I'm communicating. I'm more than interpreting the world. I'm communicating with the world. I'm throwing it out there so something can come back. And it usually is about what's happening today. It was in the 90s, although it was much more abstract, and I was trying out more things and throwing things against the wall and seeing what stuck. Now I have a more general sense of what it is I mean to say. But like I say, I don't guide it super strictly. I just kind of let it kind of find its way.
Mhm. Yes. And for example, some of the songs that embody that, just name some of them for our listeners to uh, observe how it is.
Well, let me talk about Banned Substances for a second, which is the new album
Okay.
that Cosmic Bull did. There are, I think, a lot of what the subject matter is there is what it means to be in a band. So there's a song called The Challenge Before Me. And The Challenge Before Me is about, well, the first verse, there's a disinterested audience. And my thing is, I've got to somehow get through to this disinterested audience.
Mhm.
And so the second is a hostile audience. The second verse is a hostile audience.
Mhm.
I got to make sure they don't kill me. Right. So, and that's the general idea behind this. So I just let it kind of spin out. I try to see what I could come up with. And then when I felt like it was, I don't know, tidy and nicely, kind of finished. I mean, I don't know really when you finish a song, but I've written so many of them by now that I just have an idea when something's done.
Mhm.
But let me see if there's another one that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah, there's one called Once the Dust Settles, and it was going to be the first single. It was really technically the first single off of this album, but we used a word that I guess the FCC might have frowned upon.
Mhm.
Anyway, so Once the Dust Settles, I was channeling like the January 6th guys.
Mhm.
Not the ones who really do genuinely want to topple the government, but the ones who thought they were involved in something that was interesting, even if they didn't quite understand what it was.
Mm.
And then, so my question to them in the song is, so you took this big risk, so you did this big thing. What does it mean? What have you accomplished? What happens once the dust settles, right? So and that's the question I think everybody pretty much needs to ask themselves if they're involved in any kind of endeavor. What do you mean to get to? What's the final thing of it? What's your philosophical bent on how you mean to manage this thing that you're trying to accomplish? That makes sense, doesn't it?
Definitely. You're trying to ask them, did you think deeply enough before you started?
No. No, I just had that general idea, and I had these many syllables to fill up.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I just felt around. I felt around until I I've kind of found it. And you know what? I'll say this to maybe aspiring songwriters out there, or people who are songwriters but want to see if they can kind of, once you get that phrase, you'll find yourself finding just stumbling upon a phrase that you weren't thinking about before. It came somewhere from your subconscious, but once it hits the paper for that line in the song, you're like, ooh, that can be built around. You can go backwards and forwards from that. And before you know it, your theme is starting to take shape. And like I say, it might not end the way you think it might have wanted to end, but now you've actually got somewhere to go.
So you're kind of like feeling for the soul. There are a couple of words that embody the soul of that song that you want to write.
I would say that's right. So instead of it being an intellectual thing or too literal, even though it's clearly literally writing, lyrics, but it's definitely from the feel of it, from the inside out. So just and let it and trust yourself. I was saying this in a different interview I was doing a couple weeks ago. The artist, I think, no matter what your medium is, you really do need to trust yourself to make the right decisions. And if you're second guessing every decision as you're making it, that's no way to make anything that's good, I think.
And how long were you writing for you to feel that you could trust yourself?
Yeah, well, I've gotten to that point where I do trust myself now. How long did it take? I mean, years. I think the whole time I was working in the 90s, maybe I didn't have a quite good enough handle on that. Maybe I felt I wasn't quite communicating what I needed to communicate, or didn't know how or what it was I meant to say. It may have been somewhere in that 20 years off, where I had no pressure on because I wasn't trying to present anything to anybody. And so maybe over those courses, then I just kind of gravitate toward the same thing. And it's like, well, for better or worse, this is what I'm saying, and this is how I'm saying it. And I think there you kind of, and that's something you get when you get older too. You're like, I realize what my parameters are. I know what my boundaries are in living this life. Whereas when I was younger, I didn't know what they were. So I tested them and blah, blah, blah. So now that I know what my boundaries are, I know what I'm capable of. And now I'm confident in what I've got, this big ball of stuff that I can make,
So after that 20 years, you did come back to music. Was it that you felt empty without it? That or was it something that you had to do, or was it something that just how was it that you just came back?
Let me suggest, I did a different interview and then we kind of talked about the same thing. It was a song that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young did back in, I think, 2 weeks after Kent State, where students were shot and killed on campus in Ohio. And, a month later, the song came out, Four Dead in Ohio. I mean, it's a straight up like protest song about what are we going to do about this. Now, since then, we've had school shootings. I haven't done any songs about school shootings or anything like that, or it's tough to get your head around that kind of stuff. But there hasn't been anybody that's done anything like that. Nobody's responded to things that are happening in real time. And I think that needs to change. As a matter of fact, I think back when I was around in the 90s, that people kind of thumbed their nose at kind of things like unity and kind of coming together. But I think that's a luxury we can no longer afford in this country and globally. I think we need to kind of find some sort of thread of connectivity. And so there's another song called, and it's not on the album, but it's called Unless You Know People. So it's all about, you're not going to be able to find what you want unless you're dealing with these people that could be annoying, but unless you're you're integrating your ideas with theirs, you're not getting anywhere. And so let's start somewhere. Another song on the album is called How to Live Among the Troglodytes, right? Because that was the line that came to me and I was like, oh, that's what I'm building on right there. But it's about well, where we are right now. Here we're basically trying to tear down everything, trying to, or politically, socio-politically in this country, who you are and what you choose to do with your life, it's being under attack because people can attack it and because they can attack en masse, anonymously through social media, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, let's find somewhere that we can say, beneath all this, we can still connect. beneath all this, we still have a place that we're together. And can we build on something? I mean, let's find where it is. And it's a tough time to be around. It's a tough time to even think or to be encouraged to do something like that. But I think that's where I feel my place is musically in the songwriting. Now, this is different than the actual band playing it. And as on Saturday night, you'll hear that the band is much more lively, and it's not so, it's not dour. I mean, it's sounding like it's maybe a little bit dismal and bleak, but it's not. The band actually is really fun and jazzy and out there and cool.
It seems like lyrically, it's very deep content, current issues, polarizing issues. Is that true?
They can be. I mean, I haven't really forced anything. I haven't forced myself to write a song about Vladimir Putin. Maybe it'll come out. Maybe something. I wrote a song the day that, what's her name? Ghislaine Maxwell. When she, I think she either just basically said, well, yeah, I did it or whatever. And then nobody ever had to testify. There was nobody ever found out what happened with the Jeffrey Epstein clientele. It just got away with it. And it pissed me off. So I just wrote a song. And it was about, that was the, you can't use that word.
It's okay.
And so it basically was a song about just the whole Trump experience. And then I had a special verse set aside for just the Jeffrey Epstein situation. I haven't put it on anything yet. That's an unreleased song, but it was one I definitely felt the reaction. I felt I had the tools at my disposal, which is songwriting, to actually put a song together like that.
Right. It kind of sounds to me like you're fighting against exclusivity because that's how people seem to be when they want to bar some people out and remain exclusive. And you're talking about like trying to get the real community together.
You know something? I think that is it. I think that's part of what you see this a lot of times in sports. You see how much money the star athlete's getting paid, right? Oh, he demanded to have $25 million or $50 million or whatever it is. And that becomes the story. And then what happens is you go to the ballpark and all the prices for everything have gone up. And the owners say, it's that guy's fault because he asked for more money. Well, really, the player, let's say in this case, is asking for a bigger slice of the overall pie. And then when the ownership says, okay, you get that however much you want, we're just going to make a bigger pie because they have to have more. It doesn't matter what. It could be like the richest person on earth could only afford the vacations that I can afford. They still have to have more than anybody else. So no one else will be able to do anything.
Are we kind of talking about real estate as well?
I think you could do anything. You could talk about rock stars in the hippie, post-hippie era, and I'll tell you why. Because you had once sex, drugs, and rock and roll was now a thing that anybody could get. You could be an accountant and have this kind of lifestyle now. That the rock stars who were really at the top of the thing had to find something that other people couldn't get. Oh, he's smoking weed? We're shooting heroin now. Oh, you're having sex with whoever you want to have sex with? How about teenage girls? It's obviously the wrong thing. It was wrong then. But because they were who they were, they needed that exclusivity, as you were talking about. I don't know if that's what you meant, but it's what it seems to me that there is. And I think that's wrong. I think that premise is wrong.
It seems as if you were talking about how the world community is not being a community, and then I was just thinking that the concept that drive toward exclusivity and being part of exclusivity is driving people apart.
And especially seeing now, if you're on social media, you could be somebody who's made it your life's work to study a particular subject. And you're only on the same level as somebody who just Google searched it on a right-wing website today. And you have the equal amount of authority, right? Because now, in that way, you could say, well, I'm exclusively better than this guy because he doesn't know anything, even though he studied all of this stuff. I don't know. And we're kind of getting away from the music, I feel. But so right, so there's things that are fighting. There's a real
Mhm.
tension there, and I think lyrically speaking, it's worth investigating. It's worth throwing at least myself into.
Mm. Yes, let's talk about your album.
Okay, good. Yes, this is it. This is Cosmic Bull. This is the first LP that we've done. First thing we've done with the band. Here's the back side of it. And I'm very happy because I've always wanted, I was telling you I was a kid and I wanted to play music. By the time it became my time when I was a younger person to actually come out with original music, it had changed to CDs. I was like, my dream was dashed against the rocks. I'm not going to be able to do it. And I stuck around long enough that like now vinyl's back. And so I got to do a record.
I heard vinyl's making a comeback.
Well, that's right. Shopping with my kids over Christmas, I'm like, this is just like when I was a kid. There's a whole thing of records in the racks.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I just wanted to do that. So and the band was, the band has been really good about kind of going along with these ideas and kind of helping foster the entire thing that was looking to do.
Mhm. So let's talk a little bit about your first song, Metro National.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So that one I think also, well, first of all, Jim Deneau, the keyboard player, he adds such what didn't start the song starts with his keyboards, but when we were constructing the song, it was definitely me strumming along, and he just kind of came up with this part, and he just transformed it from something that was maybe basic and folky or something to something that was much more interesting and much more, I don't know if it's futuristic, I don't know what it is, but really kind of takes it out. Lyrically speaking, I think it is definitely about being in the band situation again. What does it mean? Here's who we are. This is the Hey Hey We're the Monkeys song for Cosmic Bull.
The
Or
introduction.
it's a little introduction of like this is us as a band. That's right, including a little refrain about like if you don't like us, check us again next year.
Right.
We'll go with something new.
It seems as if Metro, then you're moving from Metro to National, and that's intentional.
Well, it's funny, but yes. So Metro National. To be honest with you, and that is what it is. So city
Mhm.
and then country, right?
Mhm.
But it started off when I was writing these lyrics, just because I thought it was funny. I actually called the song first Metro Sensual
Mm.
because I thought it was hilarious. And then I woke up the next morning, I was like, I better look that up to make sure. And so I did. And it was like some dude with his pants pulled down over. So I'm like, no Metro Sensual. Got to come up with a new name.
Well, when
That would be a different back cover, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, and it wouldn't represent exactly where we're at, I don't think either. So
so you were saying that Jim Deneau's riffs, it seems as if he was embodying that Metro state to national as as he what you were describing
yeah,
before.
although I mean, it's possible, but I don't think it wasn't really derived that way because I was just scatting what the lyrical content was going to be before I actually had the lyrics written when we structured the tune. And I prefer doing it that way, frankly, because I don't know how many verses, I don't know how many choruses, refrains, blah, 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 do we need? And I'd like to have a kind of a general working template before I start writing the words. So I know it's pointing this from here to there is how much space, right? So that's none of these were written words first, unless it was something that I had written ahead of time and just introduced to the band. So Neo-Romanticism was one of those songs. More Than You Bargained For was an older song. That one was definitely, I'd written that one way ahead of ever even putting a band together. But everything else was pretty much done in time with the band.
Was there any point in your songwriting career where you wrote a whole bunch of songs in a very short time, and then use that for later work?
Uh, yeah, maybe. I mean, most recently when we had recorded this whole album, which we recorded in a weekend. We did 10 songs in a weekend over Rick Barnes' place at Rax Tracks. And it was glorious. It was a lovely thing because we were all super in tune with what was going on. We're all having fun. Nobody had to tear down the equipment and build it back up again to try to reapproximate the sound. Everything was right where we wanted it to be.
Mhm.
But then after that, Rick took his time really saturating the sounds and getting everything to sound really right and tight together. And that was weeks of just waiting. And somebody got COVID and we had to wait for longer, and then lots and lots of delays. So in that time where I started getting like antsy, like, all right, I sat down and I think I wrote 6 or 7 songs
Mhm.
just in that amount of time. We haven't even introduced them. I haven't introduced them to the band yet.
Mhm. Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, I really want the band to be more inclusive at the start of the process of making new songs. We'll see. It's going to take a lot of work of just jamming together to do that. And right now we're also trying to get a bunch of gigs together. So then you have to, it's a different set of rehearsals. You know, then you got to make sure that your material that you already know is sharp.
Mhm.
And that's what we've been doing lately for this Martyrs show.
Mhm. When so what time are you playing on Saturday, and where could our listeners find more of your music and learn more about you?
Okay. Yeah, we're playing the first of 4 bands on Saturday, May 4th. So we're, 7:30 sharp. I'm pretty sure we're going to start right at 7:30 because they need to make room for all these other groups. And you'll hear, our power set. You'll hear most of the songs that are on this album, maybe 1 or 2 others from previous stuff. Where can you hear? Well, so all of our stuff is on Bandcamp right now. You can listen to it a few times and then purchase it if you so choose, including getting the vinyl. You can buy the vinyl there too. Um, there's a Facebook Cosmic Bulls site, which kind of keeps you up to date on what's going on with the band, what the shows are, what the new things are. This interview will go on there. And what else? We have cosmic-bull.com is the website. It's tougher to do an actual website. The Facebook one is much easier, just to throw things up there. So it's maybe not as quite up to date. And same thing with Instagram. It's not, I'm not in charge of it, so I don't really, it's, but it all exists. Look for a Cosmic Bull Band and you'll find, hopefully you'll find what you're looking for.
And if our listeners want to purchase a copy of this album, could they at the Martyrs 50th anniversary wizard party?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we'll have copies there. Yep, we certainly
And
will.
the album is Banned Substances.
That's correct. BAND.
Right. Everything's a play of words.
Well, not everything. That is.
Yeah.
And that is because it's the first with the band. So Cosmic Bull was around just as a solo project with a producer. And now this is the first time it's a real 4-piece band. Everybody gets inclusive. Everybody's a songwriter ultimately in there. It wouldn't exist like this if it wasn't for the drummer's drum parts or the bass player's bass parts or Jim's keyboards.
And we're so glad to have you always in our automation as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, Mark Vickery of Cosmic Bull, for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today. And we will see you at the Martyrs at 3859 North Lincoln Avenue in Chicago on Saturday, May 4th, and at 7:30 p.m.
I look forward to
At
it.
7.
Yes.
Doors open at 7 and get there bright and early.
Yes.
We're going on stage soon.
It's gonna be a fun time.
Yeah, we'll be. Yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Excellent interview. Very cool. Very
Well,
cool.
thanks.
I like the stories.
Awesome.
Felt like I was getting away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my next interview is calling this.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I'm sure whoever it is.
Oh, did we go long?
No, it was I was going to go to like 11:45, but I was just concerned that maybe he got lost. I didn't want him to leave.
Oh, okay. That's
But
fine.
we've got a lot of
Yeah, we did.
material in there. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
We'll do it again.
Yes,
We'll do another interview.
definitely.
Yeah.
Here, let's take a picture.
Okay.
Here, Bill.
Sure.
Oh, yes. All right. Maybe let's stand this way.
Huh?
Let's stand.
Stand.
Yeah, because we have the. Okay.
And we want to see that tuck.
Yeah.
The tucks.
Yeah.
All right.
Except I'm sweating now.
It's Megan.
Oh yeah.
Megan liked the interview. All right. Okay, let's get you going on here. That's okay. Wizard,
Wizard.
one more.
Wizard.
Gotcha. Okay, very
Awesome.
cool.
I'll send
Thanks.
you the link to the interview plus the photos.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah.
That was fun. We'll
Oh,
do it
good.
again.
Oh, good. That sounds great.
I'll walk you out, but let's see if there's someone in the lot so I can bring
Okay.
them back on the way.
Okay, let me call Daryl. He is doing public transportation, so see.
Yeah, let's see where he's
Are you
at.
parked in lot F?
Mhm.
Okay, awesome.
Good. Oh, that was a cool interview. Had a lot of fun.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was like, uh-oh, we're talking about sociopolitics.
That's
Oh, that's-
great. Yeah.
That's It's totally fine.
That's what we always talk about anyway.
Is it though?
No, we talk about a lot of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's free form, isn't it?
It's free form. It deviates from music.